TKM Incorporated is a sponsor of Keeping Up with Jones, the Lonnie Jones podcast adventure. This construction company in Moss, Tennessee specializes in erosion control. They do seeding in soil using hydro seeding and hydromulch, minor excavation, silt fencing, traffic control, and construction signs. I had the privilege to hang out with Nick Melton of TKM Incorporated, and when I mean hang out with him, I mean spend some personal time. His boys and I and him did some tree climbing at a park in Salina, Tennessee. We did a little Brazilian jiu-jitsu in a pavilion at the same park. We've had breakfast together, and I got invited to work out with them in a CrossFit gym, and they nearly killed me. And I've also been to church with Nick Melton. Nick likes to say that TKM stands for the King's Men. Because you see, his mission, his life is that they serve the King. And if you want this guy and their company to do some work for you while they serve the King, you can contact them at 931-243-3958. That is 931-243-3958. The King's Men. SJ&L General Contractor specializes in asphalt, demolition, concrete finishing, and heavy hauling. This family-owned business is licensed in Alabama and Tennessee. You can contact them for any of your construction needs. 931-433-4660. That is 931-433-4660, or 3 W's and a dot, sjnl.com, www.sjnl.com. SJ&L General Contractor is a sponsor of Keeping Up with Jones, the Lonnie Jones podcast adventure. I learned an awful lot about leadership from a guy with a shield, and it wasn't Captain America. Everybody on the SWAT team carries the shield at least once. Everybody has to carry the shield and hold a pistol out in front of it and make one lap around the PT course when you take the biannual PT test. But not everybody gets to be the shield guy. Now, if you're the shield guy, you've got a designated role, you've got a designated function on the team, and it's a little different depending on what's going on. If you're making a dynamic entry, and it's kind of like talking about a dynamic fall. Every fall you take is pretty dynamic, and every entry is basically dynamic. But sometimes when the team serves a warrant, or they make an entry, it's a knock and announce. The team goes up, they've got the paperwork in hand, you knock on the door, you simply yell through the barricade or through the door that, hey, we're with the Huntsville Police Department and we have a warrant for, or we've got a warrant to, and the people inside the building will let you in. Or if they don't comply to the knock and announce, then you make the dynamic entry. You breach the door either mechanically or explosively, and then the team goes in, and that's where the shield guy comes into play. Or sometimes you have a no-knock warrant, and that's where the team rolls up in force. They approach the structure, and they take the door out either by a battering ram or an explosive entry, and you go in. Then you announce your presence and why you're there. Typically, in the briefing, the team leader will stand up and say, it's this date, we have this warrant for this person, and these are the crimes. And it is a knock and announce or a no knock or whatever. And then he starts assigning the order of march. This is the reverse order that people get on the truck, so that when they get off the truck, everybody's properly lined up. Somebody will have the shield. Somebody will have the ram. Somebody will be cover. Somebody will have the hoolie. Somebody will have a flashbang. And in 31 years as an observer, and 31 years as a police chaplain who rides around with these guys, I've seen lots of these. I've seen lots of entries. I've seen lots of call outs, and you can multiply that number exponentially, and I've seen them train for it. Training is about repetition. Training is about do it again. Training is about doing it over and over and over. I don't know how many times I've seen something executed and simply the word from the team leader be, do it again. And that rings in my ear. The temperature has no bearing on it. The weather has no bearing on it. Those external conditions don't affect training, because when you get called in to do those things, it doesn't really matter what the atmosphere is doing or if the atmosphere is cooperating. You still have to do your job. I remember in the old days, we would be gathered together about to go train, and somebody would tease the SR guys and about the weather. Hey, it's cold or it's going to rain. And I remember Donnie Daly would always reply, "It don't rain on a black uniform." But on this particular day, the day that I learned my leadership lessons from the Shield guy, and it wasn't Captain America, uh, they're training. They're doing slow clearing in a building, and we use a various number of buildings. We borrow buildings from people, and we have our own training building that has the ability to arrange the doors and the walls. It's a very nice facility compared to the old block building that we used to train in. But on this day, they're doing a slow clearing. Now, when you do a slow clear, you're progressing through a building, and you're looking for the danger areas. You're looking for danger areas on both sides of the hallway. You're looking for bad long range angles where the bad guy can see you before you can see him. And it's no fun getting killed, quote unquote, killed in training. Now, sometimes getting killed in training means you get hit with an airsoft gun. Sometimes getting killed in training means you get hit with a paintball called a simunition. Sometimes getting killed in training is just when somebody yells bang. But if you get killed in training, it means you messed up. Now, as the guy who gets to play the bad guy, because I don't clear buildings for a living. I've never made any official entries. I just hide in the building and they come find me. And so I'm in a building and they are hunting me. But after so many years of being a bad guy, I'm sort of hunting them too. When you're really hunting, and I'm talking about squirrels and rabbits and deer and stuff, there's several different methods you can use to hunt. One method is called still hunting. And still hunting is basically you're going through territory, you're going over terrain, and you're taking just a few steps at a time, and you're stopping and you're looking. It's slow, deliberate movement until you actually spot the game before the game spots you. Now, once you get to that point in a still hunt, you're easing through the woods. You may take 3 steps and look around. You may take 4 steps and squat down. Once you find the game, then you begin to what is known as stalk hunting. And stalk hunting is, hey, I know where the deer's bedded down. I know where the squirrel's nest is. I know where whatever. And then you begin a slow, careful movement, already knowing that you've seen the game. And now you got to worry about your sound. You've got to worry about the direction of wind, all those kind of things. And then there's stand hunting. Stand hunting is where you find a game trail, you find a bedding area, you find a food source, and you basically set up and you're stationary and you hide. You're hidden in a place waiting for your quarry to come by you. And so where these guys are still hunting me or stalk hunting me, I'm stand hunting them. I'm waiting. I'm hidden in a room. I'm in a cabinet. I'm up on top of something. I'm hiding in the rafters. I'm underneath a bed, and I'm hiding and waiting on them. Now, the impolite assessment of this would be that I'm in an ambush, but it's not a true ambush. You see, as a bad guy, as the guy who's the opposing force, I'm really not proving anything by stacking bodies. You see, I don't shoot around corners blindly. I don't fire through cracks. I only take shots at the team that I would take if I were actually hunting. I only take shots that I'm fairly guaranteed to get a hit. You see, if they expose themselves to danger or they enter my sector of fire without proper protection or they don't use a proper procedure, then if I get a shot off, it means you messed up. It's not that I surprised you and jumped out and entered a Butch Cassidy Sundance Kid gunfight with these guys. You're not going to win that gunfight anyway. You might shoot one guy. This is about just helping them learn from their mistakes. But if you're that guy that made that mistake, if you stepped too far out in the hallway, if you didn't use your cover, if you didn't use your concealment, and you gave me an angle, if you get shot in training, it means you messed up. It means you really messed up. So as the younger guys, they're careful not to get shot in training. They're careful not to be that guy who makes the mistake, the guy who really messed up, the guy who gets exposed. And you've got to understand that as a bad guy, I have an advantage. Number one, I know they're coming. Number two, I typically know where they're coming from. And since we're training and it's on a work shift, I know that sometime between 8 and 4, they're going to be in this building looking for me. So it's not like a real scenario. So I've got a lot of things in my favor, but because those things are in my favor as a bad guy, the young guys go real slow. And there's nothing wrong with real slow. I've heard them say in training, you have the rest of your life to enter that door. No pun intended. But they'll get down into a training scenario, and then there's a lot of dynamic inactivity. They push into an area and they lock up. They make an entry, they secure a hallway, and now you've got doors on both sides. You've got opposing danger areas. You've got crossfire areas. And the biggest thing is you've got to address, you've got to identify, and you've got to deal with your danger areas. Now, here's the theory behind the shield. Shield theory is that the shield guy shields the team. Duh. Hello, Captain Obvious. Basically, this guy with this big ballistic shield provides cover so the team can operate in an area behind the shield. He's blocking hostile fields of fire, and he's blocking absolute line of sight access. The guy behind the shield with the shield drives the shield guy, thus driving the shield. So you've got a guy with the shield, and you've got a guy behind him who puts his hands on his shoulder and directs him. Stand in this door, go down this hall, lock this down. And so you got the guy behind the guy with the shield, and he's the guy driving the shield. In theory. But the new guys have this thing that happens. And it's really not supposed to happen, but it does. The guy with the shield is in front. So they entered this building, they entered this hallway, and they lock it down, and they're piled up behind the shield, and he begins to describe the situation. I've got a long hallway. I've got an open door on the left. I've got a T intersection in the front. And he begins to describe what he sees. And because he sees it first, by default, he comes up with the plan. And that's not the way the shield theory is supposed to work. We say, well, he's in front, he can see. Well, what's wrong with that? Well, number one, it's not really his job. He's got the shield and he's out in front and he's the first guy, but he's not the leader and he's not in charge. The guy who's in charge is the guy behind him, supposed to place him, use that asset, use that resource for a specific reason. You see, the front guy, the guy most visible, the guy who has first contact, by default has become the leader. Now, this thing is heavy. They often use a little lanyard to support the bottom of it with a little hook. It has a very small viewport, and the viewport is ballistic, so it's thick, and it's thick plastic or Lexan or plexiglass, but it's ballistic. And after so many reps of use and so many times being dropped on the floor and after making so many actual entries and being slammed into things, it gets scratched. It can be cloudy. You know, the hardest lap on the PT test is probably the lap with the shield because you're holding that thing in front of your face. It blocks your breathing. It blocks your vision, and it's hard to run with. Well, the shield guy has this thing, and it's thick, distorted plastic, and it's scratched up, and it's not very clear, and the guy with the shield can't really see very far downrange. And his peripheral vision is messed up just a little bit because you don't have good left and right vision past the shield. And really, the shield guy can't see immediately below him. If he's not super careful, he can over-penetrate and walk into a room and a guy be laying on the floor and the shield guy completely miss it. Not only his peripheral vision is limited, but his vertical vision is limited. And it seems obvious that you wouldn't want him out front. You wouldn't want him making the decisions. You're using him as a shield because he's the shield guy. But it happens unconsciously. It happens inadvertently. And the guy with the least ability to see, the guy with the limited vision, now becomes the leader. This guy decides what the plan is, what the next move is, and where the team is going next. And he really is not in the optimal position to make those kind of decisions. Now, he has the ability to protect the team. He can shield the team from being exposed. Well, why can't he lead? And when you deal with in metaphors and you do conceptual things with word pictures, it's not 100% accurate. But in this case, the very nature of being that protective, the very nature of providing that level of protection, almost by default limits your ability to have good vision. Because you can be cavalier or you can be too careful, and in a high-risk situation where you're doing real man things, risk is part of the game. Risk is part of the nature. You see, the true leader has to have clearer vision. He not only has to have the ability to see immediately the things that are in front of him, he not only needs to have the ability to see immediately the things that are around him, he not only has to have the ability to see the things that are immediately below him, he must have better overall long-range vision. So what do we learn from the shield guy? Don't let someone lead who can't process the things immediately in front of them. Don't let someone lead who can't see the whole picture. Don't let someone lead who's being too protective. Don't let someone lead just because they provide a sense of safety and security. Don't let someone lead who can't see clearly. Don't let someone lead who doesn't have long-range vision. And don't let somebody lead just because they happen to be out front. Using the tool of shortwave radio, World Christian Broadcasting literally covers the world every day with the gospel. They use 2 large curtain antennas. One is located in Anchor Point, Alaska, and the other in Madagascar. They send out messages that are recorded at their international home in Franklin, Tennessee. They make available 40 hours of broadcast every day. The broadcasts are made in English, Chinese, Russian, Spanish, Portuguese, Korean, English for Africa, and Arabic. They would love for your group to visit them. You can bring your ladies group, your youth group, or your men's group. Just give them a call at 615-371-8707, 615-371-8707, or you can go to 3Ws and a dot, worldchristian.org, find the Donate Here button, and make a financial contribution to support this work that literally covers the world every day with the gospel. World Christian Broadcasting, in cooperation with Keeping Up with Jones, the Lonnie Jones podcast adventure. The mission of Heritage Christian University is simple. They aim to advance the churches of Christ by equipping servants through undergraduate and graduate programs. Heritage Christian University produces effective communicators of the gospel, focusing on evangelism and a commitment to Scripture. Heritage Christian University is accredited by the Association for Biblical Higher Education and offers the following degrees: Associate of Arts in Biblical Studies, Bachelor of Arts in Biblical Studies, Master of Arts, Master of Ministry, and Master of Divinity. Since 1968, Heritage Christian University, formerly International Bible College, has offered affordable degrees in biblical studies, allowing graduates to thrive in their ministries without the burden of loan debt after graduation. For more information about Heritage Christian University, visit www.hcu.edu. That's 3Ws and a dot, hcu.edu. Heritage Christian University is a sponsor of Keeping Up with Jones, the Lonnie Jones podcast adventure. Keeping Up with Jones, the Lonnie Jones podcast adventure, is sponsored by us. What? We sponsor ourselves? Is that even legal? Check us out on Amazon. You can have access to the titles of Pedagogue, the youth ministry book by Lonnie Jones; Cognitive Spiritual Development, a Christ-centered approach to spiritual self-esteem; Grappling with Life, Controlling Your Inside Space, a small essay using the principles of Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu to talk about psychological and emotional self-defense; If I Were a Mouse, a children's book written and illustrated by Lonnie Jones; and then The Selfish Reel, a very short story about a decision. Also, you can check out our YouTube channel to see archived lessons and presentations from across the country, some videos with rope tricks and knots. Don't forget to visit the Facebook page 550 Guys to learn about the little rope men that we make and that we invented and that we make. And then be sure to click like, subscribe, and share. This is Keeping Up with Jones, the Lonnie Jones podcast adventure.